Hello, this is Super Bee Shirley with Meyers Bees. This is my honey extracting setup. So camera stand, refractometer, hot bucket of water, paper towels, tin thing in case I need it, the strainer and holder for any stray pieces of comb that won't go through the extractor, the uncapping rack from Dr. Leo, and hopefully he has updated or fixed his supply issue here. The design was changed on him and it no longer fits nicely over the ridge. Had to make little notches last year. I didn't do a very good job and I never came back and fixed it. So I think last year I just set the feed inside the tub. I set the extractor on top of some blocks. We'll see how that goes. I'm not going to scrimp to the blocks because I need the height so I can get the bucket underneath there with the strainer. I've got a 4-frame Layens extractor. Chose the 4-frame because I can either extract 2 or 4 frames at once. And with a 3-frame, you have to do 3 frames to balance the centrifuge. And everything on the floor is cardboard, which I can throw away, put in the garden. I only have 8 frames this year at this time because we did not get a hard freeze. Before I pulled the frames on the 5th of October 2023. Today is October 9th, 2023. And let's get started. It's frame number 1. Almost, well, fully capped on one side. This side we've got maybe about 2 inches that's not capped. So I started setup at 7 a.m. this morning. It's now 9 a.m. The longest part of this is getting everything in one spot and putting the feet on the extractor and putting the motor on the extractor. I did have my videos from last year to look at, so it is not as warm in the garage as when I extracted last year. So I'm gonna move this a little closer so I can just do this. All these cells have to be uncapped in order for the honey to come out. The reason why the temperature in the garage is significant is that everything is cooler in here. It's maybe 65 degrees in here. I had the space heater running, which I don't know if it helped or not. So this is what I need to do. I'll get faster at it as I go. I'll get a rhythm. There was one frame though. Oh, I see. I should have brought my hive tool and I could have got this propolis off here. What was I saying? I don't remember. I got distracted by that big wad of propolis. I'm fast forwarding through the decapping of this frame. It took about 4 minutes total. As I said in the beginning, I'll get faster as I go, but I didn't think you needed to see me scrape every cell off. You can kind of see the honey drip as we go with that fast forward. It kind of looks interesting to me. Then I take the butter knife and just go over any cells that I may have missed along the edges and the bottom. So this is a process that I repeat for each side of each frame. It takes a little time, but it's very methodic, and the end reward is so sweet. From all the cappings, I got about 2.5 pint jars of honey. That included any honey that you see dripping below in the white tray. So that tray is excellent for catching the drips, but not so good for catching all the cappings. It would have piled up in the middle there, and I would have had to go around the frame to get it in the middle.
So that's why I chose to put the cappings in the calendar instead.
Honey frame 1 done. This one's super heavy. Got a little bit at the bottom that's not capped, but this one is fully capped all the way down. And away we go. You can see my strainer's gonna fill up faster. I'm trying to remember what I used last year. I just put it in the white tray, or I'm assuming I put it in an ice cream pail. And the ice cream pail that I used last year is full of honey or comb that was removed from the roof of the purple hive. That won't be one hive. You're building comb on the roof on the attic. So not sure, I will have to see if Dad thinks we can add a thin sheet of plywood to the top, which would add as another piece of insulation, but also let them know not to build up there. Next summer, I will be giving them empty frames to build wax on, to build the comb on. This year, both hives got, I'm pretty sure, mostly frames that had empty combs, so they didn't have that work to do. And some of these frames will need the wax recycled anyway if they're getting really dark. They need to be cycled out of the hive. There, it's a lot easier when the full frame is capped and the comb is about the same thickness. Let's see if I can pull any of it off of there. Okay, yeah, we got empty cells down here, so they didn't put anything down there, or if they put nectar down there, they consumed it themselves. So I only take what is excess honey, what they might not use over the winter. I tend to leave more honey in the hive than I probably should, because that is their food. That is what sustains them. I don't feed sugar water to my hives. That's part of the reason why I pull my frames so late in the season. The second reason to pull the frames after the frost is that the drones should be gone from the hive. I have a better gauge of what the winter cluster will look like. All the unnecessary drones and any older worker bees will have been gone by then. I do remember from last year that this comb this rake gets pretty gunked up, so if I can kind of keep it clean as I go, it'll just make an easier process for me. Now I could have done this in the house, but I would have had to struggle the extractor inside. It's really not that heavy, but it's just awkward because it's pretty big. It's not that heavy when the motor's not attached. And I don't store the motor attached over the winter. advantages of doing it in the garage is that if my floor covering fails, it's not a huge issue for me to clean up. I do have a bottle of vodka I got from my brother-in-law, Gary. Thank you, Gary. Got it last year, but I got it from him after I was done with the cappings. These are called wax cappings. And I plan to rinse the vodka over the cappings this year. I normally would put it all in a crock pot with some water, and then that honey water that I got from the crock pot, that's what I would have first in my tea and my oatmeal before I actually started on my honey stash. I would like to start some mead. I don't think I'm going to get to that this year because I haven't done the fine-tuned research, gotten the supplies, and my November is pretty booked. So to balance this, I will find one that is not so full. Take this one. This one's next. We've got several frames, I'll show them to you, that have got weird patterns. I don't like this kind of middle top of this one. So I just want to skim the top off. I try not to gouge into the actual cell so that I get more honey in the jar, not in the cappings.
This frame has got darker comb than previous frames. That's just because it had more cycles of brood through it. Honey is just fine.
That's good.
For subsequent frames, I'll just show what the frame looked like. You don't have to watch me doing all this uncapping. And we'll show the refractometer at the end.
So this frame might be a good candidate to cycle out and put it in my crock pot. I had planned on making candles, but I also made starter strips for the tops of the frames with the leftover wax, so I have not had enough to make candles because of that. And this is a good candidate because for some reason they didn't like this little river, and because the bottom is dark, so it's been in there a couple of seasons, and the reason why it's dark is because they raised baby bees inside, so it's gone through several generations of that, and with each successive generation it gets darker. I also have a few people that just want cut comb, so in order to provide cut comb for them, I need to have some brand new fresh wax to sell to them. I wouldn't sell cut comb in the dark wax here. Okay, I'm just making sure the cells are open and getting any big chunks of wax off because it'll just get stuck in the bottom strainer. Doesn't that look good? This is what we want to pull. Full capped all the way on both sides. And I am pleasantly surprised that they managed to get this much honey. I pulled 5 frames from one hive and 3 frames from the other because the temperature all summer was hot, hotter than normal and drier than normal. They really liked the bird bath for their water source this year. That bird bath is probably 30 years old. It's cement, and it probably has a ton of minerals. I can tell the wax is getting chilled, and it's a little more difficult than the first frame I did. Maybe I need to turn the space heater back on. So I can see my calendar is full after 3.5 frames. It's a little wobbly because it's on those blocks and it's not mounted on the blocks. Last year I just had it directly on the floor, but then I had to use an ice cream pail underneath the gate. I think I had it going a little faster last year, not much. So, spin away. We just have to spin it for a few minutes on each side, maybe up to 5. I don't have a clock out here, so we'll just do a guesstimate. So I flipped the frames around to do the other side, and I'll flip them back as well. While they are spinning, I'm going to uncap these. I have 2 frames like this, both from the Gnome Sweet Gnome Hive. I will definitely crush this comb because in the bottom it's all weird as well. And I didn't like something about this, but now that I'm looking at it, I didn't have any collapsed comb in the hive. This is the whole thing at the bottom. I'm gonna say it kind of shifted down a little bit, but the stuff in the bottom is older. This whole frame is just whacked. I have 2 of them like that. And yeah, they're both gonna get crushed. Here's the other one. They didn't like. Now, I have a theory that when I added my wax strips, some of the frames, the wires didn't want to get hot, and so I think I might have burned the wires. That's my theory. But again, no collapsed comb in the hive to indicate that some of that fell off in the hotness. Not sure why. It's a mystery. So the screen is generally the holdup of the process, so that's why we're using these wood blocks underneath the feet. And I think the sound of the feet against the wood, that's the sound that you hear, but that's just what we're doing this year. Maybe next year I'll get the feet mounted to a pallet.
Remind me next year that I'm going to put the extractor on the stamp room square table. It's super sturdy. That table is indestructible. So we'll try that next year instead of attaching the legs. I bet y'all really like that method.
Got the last 4 frames in there. They were pretty equally weighted, so we don't have a lot of rocking, even though I'm at the center. Let's do a little. I've just done one side, and I have typically done one side for a short time and then flipped it over and flipped it again. Let's just try this method. We'll go, it's probably already been spinning for a minute, maybe 2 more minutes on the first side, and we'll see how well that goes. So it's time for cleanup. I'm trying to decide if I need to just put that larger strainer in the tin thing and collect the honey there, or just put it over my bucket. See, from the first round we have about 1/3 of a 5-gallon pail. And I've already scraped the wax off of there. I probably should come back and get some more off of there. I decided to put it on the floor. Otherwise I had to just monitor it while it was on the blocks. I'll put it back on the blocks to drain it though. And I think I'll be fine. I'll just tip it and it'll take me that long to clean up while it's draining. So did turn the space heater back on. Yeah, that's an old one. I keep watching it. I never leave the room when that's on. And the bottom is warm. It's keeping the sides a little bit warm as well. All right, so it ran for about 2 more minutes. This is what I have on the bottom. And the hole is like right in between the corner. It's not covered yet. So I'm on my last sides. I didn't uncap one side of one frame and it had gotten unbalanced on that first spin, so I had to take it off and uncap it with just my butter knife because I already had my uncapping fork in the water. And as long as the frames are balanced with weight, the centrifuge is pretty good. Let's tick it up. I was afraid that that comb might bust out on the one that I had uncapped with the butter knife because it was pretty flexible. Because one side was pretty empty. And I think my cue to stop the centrifuge is when I don't hear the honey flicking on the sides of the centrifuge. I can hear a few droplets yet. Extraction is done, so I just have the sieving to do. And the sieve removes all of the wax that was flung off the frames during the extraction. It'll just take a few minutes to filter that off. Maybe a minute or two, and I'll come back and refill it. Working on cleaning up all my utensils that were on the table while this is happening. And I'll need to block up the back. Right now I've got them back on 2 blocks, so I'll put 3 on the back.
The girls did a great job reducing the water percentage to 15.5%. Anything below 17% is considered good. And then here's a photo of a portion of the bottled honey. I'll have a link in my video description box below to the bottling video. This is Super Bee Shirley with BBS Bees. We'll buzz you later. Bye.